are. Thank you for stepping in for a few minutes. The book, the opening of the Torah is very much on my mind today. We are beginning the book of Genesis. Simchat Torah has just passed a few days ago. We're going to be celebrating it this Friday night with HCRJ. But when we dive into the book of Genesis, particularly the book of Genesis, and particularly this parsha, this Torah portion, it's always so important to me to remind us all that the Torah is really meant to be read poetically and not prosaically. That this text, and then a rabbinic response to this text, is really about diving in to the question of us human beings as creators, as individuals who exercise the characteristics that we envision of God, but within the context of that Hasidic story about how we are God's hands, we are God's mouths, we are the bodies that bring God into the world. So whether you have a very clear understanding of who and what God is, or for you, God is really an abstract, very randomized notion of ideas and thoughts, it doesn't matter. The only way God is brought into the world, as far as we know, is through our actions. And so this notion of just as God does, so should we, particularly in the context of creation. You know, the power, the strength that comes from envisioning something that we would imagine we'd want to see, and then striving to make it happen, and getting to then experience it through its fruition is really powerful. And as Dan and Tiffany and I were talking, the final product, which is never final, often doesn't match at least our idealized version of what we had imagined, what we envisioned. But the other side of that is that if we don't dream, if we don't raise up our vision, if we don't imagine, then we might fall short of even trying. And there's so much rabbinic interpretation of what leads God to make human beings. And one of the central premises is that God has the angels who are arguing with each other about whether human beings are going to be good or bad. And it's like that Fiddler on the Roof quote, right? You know, you're right, and you're right, and you're right too, right? They're all right. Yet God moves forward. And in this midrash I was just studying, on the one side, God has love and compassion. Love, compassion, kindness, and peace. And half of the group are against it, and half of them are for. And so what does God do? God throws truth down to the ground and says, let truth well up. And in the meantime, I will create. So truth has a way of standing in our way, of stepping in to try to build something that up until now hasn't been true. But perhaps there are new truths to discover. Not counterfactual facts, but truths that we can discern. So one of my favorite things to do with Dan is to ask him to play a song that he forgot he wrote. So Dan, it's yours.
Oh, thank you. I didn't see that coming. This is a song based on the poem by Helen Keller called God's in Me. believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. The light in my darkness, the voice in my silence. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. The sun is in the color and fragrance of a flower. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. The sun's in the color and fragrance of a flower. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. The sun's in the color and fragrance of a flower. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. The sun's in the color and fragrance of a flower. The light in my darkness, the voice in my silence. Hi na na na, hi na na na, hi na na na, hi na na na. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. The sun's in the color and fragrance of a flower. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. The sun is in the color and fragrance of a flower. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. The sun's in the color and fragrance of a flower. I believe that God's in me. I believe that God's in me. The sun's in the color and fragrance of a flower. The light in my darkness, the voice in my silence.
Thank you, Dan. At this time, I invite everyone, if you would like, to mention the names of people you are thinking of who are in need of healing. I invite you to write those names into our chat, and we will pray together, a prayer for healing.
Me מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Thank you, Dan, so very much. Thank you all for joining us. Those of you who are in Houston, we hope you'll join us tomorrow evening as we finally close out the High Holy Days with Simchat Torah at HCRJ, with HCRJ, with Steve Gross and Laura Scheinkoff and I. It's going to be a blast. And it'll even include a tour de Torah. If you're not in town, you will be able to watch. If you just go to the link that's in the e-letter. It's HCRJ's live stream. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be back.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you. Have a great